Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 5 of the Les Paul Junior build. And in this episode we're going to continue working on this fretboard, get the markers in, get it cut to shape, hopefully get the frets pressed in as well. Now I actually started this build a few weeks ago and I've been working on it in the background while I've been doing other things. So the last few episodes that you've seen were actually recorded a little while ago. And about a week ago, a video popped up in YouTube from a good friend of mine, an incredible guitar builder, Dane Nichols from Jonah Guitars, who is also building a TV yellow Les Paul Junior. I suppose they're just like buses. You wait for ages and then two come along. Now, I've spoken to Dane about this and we're all good with it. It is what it is. These coincidences happen and it's just not a problem. But I do think it is actually an opportunity for you guys to nip over to Dane's channel to see what he's doing. His build is going to be slightly different from mine. It's a single cutaway for a start, but also the lump of wood that he used for the body is very, very heavy. So he's actually cut it to pieces and he's chambered it and he's putting it all back together again. So that's going to be a very, very different build from the one that I'm doing. But please do head over there and have a look what he's doing. He's a great guy and he does put some great content out there. Anyway, back to this build. Now the first thing I want to do on this fretboard is to get it marked out for the centre line and also its other dimensions, because it's got excess on both ends and it's too wide basically and it will need trimming down. But this is very dark wood and you can't really see the pencil very well on it, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover the whole surface area with a bit of blue masking tape. Now I've started with a length straight down the middle because I don't want to join. That might be confusing with regards to my centre line, and I can just trim this down as necessary. Okay, and I'd actually marked the centre points into the end of this fretboard by putting a little cut mark in, so that's been quite easy to pick up. So I'll just join those two together to get our centre line in. And from there, I can just match up my template. And mark out the lines where I need to trim it down. So I'll get that to the bandsaw in a minute, but first, before I do that, I'm going to run through this tape at the position of each fret. Because I want to mark out for the fret position markers while I've still got this tape on the board as well, and this will just enable me to see exactly where the fret slots are. And the first thing I'm going to do is just use the template to mark the positions where we want the markers to be. Now this is only temporary, this is only to tell me that I'm actually working in the correct positions, because I am super paranoid about getting the position markers in the wrong place. I haven't done it so far. I'm sure I will do it at some point, but hopefully this will stop me doing it on this occasion. And from there, I'm just going to use this little rule referencing on those fret slots just to mark the exact position where I want the marker to go. And then I'll just pop that with a centre mark. And that just leaves me with the 12th fret position marker to do, where of course we've got 2. And if you're wondering how I do that, it's a very similar procedure. I'm just marking the diagonals. Which will give me the center point of the 2 frets. And this is mainly the reason that I'm doing this before I put the taper on the board, is I can actually reference my square and put that line in, and then I've just got a pair of dividers set up to the correct distance. Put a little mark in, pop it with the awl. We're now good to get that to the drill press and get them drilled out. Okay, so that's the holes drilled out for the markers, and I've also cut the excess off the sides. Now, to set up for these markers, what I did was I set the drill press up so the brad of the bit was just going into that hole that I punched into there. So effectively the cutting portion of the bit was level with the top of the fretboard. I've set the stop up at that, and then I've put 2 of these little fret ruler templates together with some masking tape holding them together, and that gives me about 1.8mm, which is just a little bit thinner than the 2mm of my pearl inlay dots. So hopefully that means I can glue the dots in and they'll just be ever so slightly proud, which I can clean down with some sandpaper when we come to polish this board up. Now, I've deliberately cut as close to the line as I possibly can, because what I generally do with these once I get them to this stage is I will true the edges up with a plane. But of course we all know that this wood isn't very fond of being planed. So I've left the absolute minimum to clean off. What I'm hoping is that the plane will do that for me without any further tear out. If not, it's not so much that needs cleaning up that I can't do it with a sanding block and some roughish paper. But I'm not going to go there unless I can't get it to plane. So the next process with this is to get it into the vise, get a nicely fine setup on my, probably use my number 4 plane because I know that's the sharpest at the moment, and just see if we can just get those cleaned up without causing any further damage. Okay, and I've set this up and it's really barely cutting at all. It's just skimming the surface. So we'll just work at this. And take it down until we've got a nice clean straight edge. Thankfully that seems to be cutting really nicely. That's beautiful. So just turn it around and do the same on the other side. And that looks absolutely spot on. And thankfully we've managed to do that without causing any damage to the sides. So that is good news. Right, so with that done, we can now get the rest of this masking tape off and start to look to get the inlays in and get the rest of this fretboard sanded up to the standard that we want it to be. Well, that didn't take absolutely ages at all. It may have done its job of showing me where my markings were while I was doing those operations, but it was an absolute mission to get it all off. But we're done now, so we can crack on with the next bit. And that is putting these little dot markers in. And all these are a little 6mm mother of pearl inlays. And like I said, they're about 2mm thick. So hopefully the holes we've drilled in here should be absolutely spot on. And all I'm going to do, if I find it helps to have a little bit of MDF or something on hand while I'm doing this, is it's literally blob of super glue in the hole. Give them a few sharp taps. I'm going to need something harder than MDF. Okay, so very, very quickly just cut myself a little block of maple. Hopefully that will be hard enough to get that in, and I think that has done. It's gone in a little angle, but I think my glue has dried. Oh no, there you go. Just needed a little bit more persuasion. So I'm just going to work my way down the rest of the fretboard now and get the rest of them glued in the same. And then I've just put this back in its jig temporarily. I'm just going to take the 120 that we finished the board with and very quickly just take off any excess that there might be on these dots. There's not very much. So it hardly takes any sanding at all. Just to get those down. So what I'm going to do next is I will still use the block, but I'm just going to use some different grade of sanding pads on there. And I'm going to go up through the grits. So that was 120, so I'll go 180, 240, 360. Once I get to that kind of a level, we're not taking any material off anymore. We're just kind of altering the condition of the fretboard. So then I'm going to switch to some super acrylics and I'll go through the grits on that. And I'll just do that on a soft pad just to polish up this ebony a little bit more. Okay, so that was about 20 minutes of sanding in all, I think. I've gone through all of the papers and then I've gone to 600, 800, 1200 Super ASSI licks. I think they may be ruined now. And then I've gone with a 3000 and a 6000 Trizact pad, which anyone who has watched me for a while will know is what I generally tend to use to polish up my lacquer. Hopefully you can see there. That's come out absolutely beautifully. Almost feels like a lacquer finish, which is nice. So yeah, very, very happy with that. So next up is we need to get some dots in to the side of here. And to that end, I've got some little mother of pearl 1.5mm dot markers, and I've also got my little jig that I use for positioning these. And basically what I do is I'll find the center point between the two fret positions where the marker goes, and I can use that to line up my jig, drill the hole through, put the marker in, everyone's happy. And all I'm going to do is just use my vernier to get a good measurement between the two fret slots. I will half that and then just use that to find my center position. And then use a small square just to extend that marker across the board like that. Okay, so there's the fretboard all polished up, inlays in and everything, looking absolutely brilliant. I'm really happy to say that I've got all the inlays in the right position and they all look nice and straight and even. So that's a really, really good result for me. The next step will be to get some frets into this, and for me to be able to try out in anger my brand new fret pressing machine, which is exciting, but I'm going to leave that to the next episode. I think we've covered quite enough for this one. I'll be back in a couple of days' time with that. Until then, please go and check out Dane's channel and see what he's doing on his Les Paul Junior build. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Drop him a like and a subscribe. I know he'd really, really appreciate it, and he is an absolutely lovely bloke. So I think that would be a good thing for Dane and the guitar building community as a whole. I'll be back in a couple of days' time when we'll be getting these frets in. So like, subscribe, etc. and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.